What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Lunchable Sports Podcast. Joined here today by Adyn. We had a pretty cool, pretty good Super Bowl. Um, Crazy game, high scoring game. It wasn't like it was in years past. We've had some, not the most exciting Super Bowls in years past. So I'm glad we got a super exciting one this year. Pretty controversial call at the end of the game that decided the Chiefs' fate with that flag. How do you feel about that? About that flag being called there at the end of the game?
Um, I don't know. I have some mixed feelings on it. I mean, obviously it sucks seeing a game like kind of be decided by that, but also as you saw a lot of the Chiefs guys or Eagles guys say that there's a lot to the game besides that just one call. So I don't put too much stake into it. I know I'm probably one of the only ones who says that, but I think it was a good game. It was entertaining and it was high scoring, just like you said. So I was happy with it and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and I would agree with you too with that flag. I definitely think you probably have to call that because I think on the flip side of that, if you don't call that, people would be complaining about,
Yeah,
this was holding. Why didn't you throw that? It was clearly holding. I understand why some people may be upset, but at the end of the day, you got to call that. Mahomes, Super Bowl MVP,
hey, wait, let's
second
just
time
say
in his career.
let's say that was the Lions in the Super Bowl and they get called for that. What are you doing?
Oh, I'd be so mad. I would be furious. I'd probably drive out
Uh,
to the NFL officiating crew headquarters and do something about it myself.
yeah, see,
But
that's the flip side though.
yeah, that's the flip side. But
There
but
was
as
there was
un
a
that that's
there
from
was
a biased
riot police out
that
in
that's from a
Philly.
biased fan's perspective. From an unbiased point of view, I'm going with that was the right call. But
There was riot police out in Philly
there were
because people were up in arms or whatever, which I understand it. Philly's had a
Philly,
rough year this
Philly's a
year
wild place.
with the Phillies losing, the Eagles, the whatever their MLS team, I don't know what they're called, but the MLS team there lost in the finals. It's been a rough year for Philly this year.
Yeah, it has been, but at least they've gotten there. Can't say that
Yeah,
about.
that's true. That is true.
At least they were in it. Because I did see a ranking of cities that would not survive their team to win a Super Bowl, and Detroit was number one. I think the city of Detroit would burn to the ground if the Lions won a Super Bowl. And honestly, they'd probably have to rebuild up all the cities again, because all those towers would be knocked down if the Lions won a Super Bowl. They might have to rename the city. I don't know if they'll even bring back Detroit if Detroit wins a Super Bowl. The city
I,
would be
I
completely demolished.
I love how we got to Lions talk from that. Eh?
It always branches off the lines. But steering back on topic, entering the NFL offseason, we're going to have some big time videos coming up closer to free and see about what our predictions are. We'll probably have some stuff after the NFL Combine coming up in probably about a couple of weeks now. More mock draft stuff, more like talking about the prospects, stuff like that. In the meantime, there's this kind of dead period between the Super Bowl and NFL offseason. Fans for NFL fans, you got the NHL All Star games about to happen, NBA All Star games going on. But speaking of about the NBA, the big NBA trade deadline was about a week ago. Um, huge news. KD to the Suns. I mean, that kind of seemed like it was pulled out of thin air. Like we heard rumors of KD possibly getting traded after the big Kyrie to Dallas trade. But I didn't know it would happen this quick and this fast. What are your thoughts on that trade?
Yeah, the NBA is crazy, man. Just
Mhm.
ridiculous the trades that go down. Um, yeah, I mean, I like that trade for the Suns. We can start off with KD and then go to Kyrie, but um, I think the Suns. There's a lot of stuff going around about KD, how he needs a super team all the time and whatever. But I just think that I'll defend KD a little bit. I think that's just today's NBA. I think you need two to three stars, two to three superstars to win in the NBA nowadays. So I don't really put too much hate on KD for that, but I think the Suns are a real contender now with the big three. You could say kind of big three and DeAndre Ayton there
Mhm.
in Phoenix, but yeah, I'm excited to see the West is absolutely stacked with Kyrie going to Dallas and KD going to Phoenix. So it'll be an exciting playoff run for sure.
Yeah, totally. And another point I want to bring back to is if you look at some of the NBA champions from years past, I mean, very rarely do we see teams that kind of construct pure super teams and pure trades and signings for these mega stars. I feel like it's always kind of turning into a colossal failure. I feel like you need in the NBA at least, you need to set your foundation of drafted guys before you go out and add a superstar. Like, obviously the Nets, Kyrie and Kevin Durant was a massive failure. The Clippers with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, that's not looking too great. Yeah, the Lakers had their big year with LeBron and AD, but that really hasn't turned it into much after that. The Sixers are kind of, they're playing good this year with Harden. Um, but before, with the teams Jimmy Butler and stuff like that, that didn't really go anywhere. So I do applaud the Suns for at least building their foundation with Booker, Ayton. Obviously that trade McCall Bridges, but just solidifying that foundation, and then go out to get a mega star to put you over the top. So I do like that from the Suns perspective.
That's a really good point you bring up. I think you could see with the Warriors too last year with all the guys they still have with Curry. Obviously, I mean they have their superstars, but they've also drafted those guys too,
Yeah.
and developed them. And guys like Jordan Poole and I know they traded Wiseman to the Pistons, but they've drafted some really good guys and they developed them. So credit to those teams who do it like that. But I think today's NBA, you need whether you draft them or you trade for them, you need 2 to 3 superstars to win now. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but it is crazy the trades that happen in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially from a Pistons perspective, touched a little bit on that Wiseman trade. First reaction, I know I texted Adyn this, but I wasn't really a fan of that trade. I thought, Sadiq Bey, who they traded away, is very young. Only his third year in the NBA. Still only like I think I'm not exactly sure on his age. I think 23 years old is around that. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of the fact that he traded one of the most valuable positions in the NBA, a wing who's only 23 years old. He's been inefficient this season, but then again, he's still young, still putting up, 14 points per game for a 23-year-old is pretty good. And you trade him for the other team that would get Wiseman, I'd be like, yeah, that's a good idea. But man, we got Jalen Duren, and Jalen Duren's an absolute monster this season. Um, Putting up numbers with Jaden Ivey. So I'm not a fan of getting two bigs in the front court who can't shoot. I think it's not like that anymore. It's not the 80s. You can't have two paint dominant guys. You need stretch bigs who can shoot the basketball. And I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that trade.
No, you know what I will say when I first
Give
saw
it
the
time.
trade, when I first saw the trade, I was I was like, wow, like good move by the Pistons getting another young guy. But you know what? I will say Noah swayed me. He swayed me. I don't like the move for the Pistons. It's like you said, they've got a lot of bigs right now, a lot of young bigs, and there's only one ball and only so many big positions like on the floor. Like you can only play so many big guys. Um, so yeah, I would have liked them I would have liked them to maybe grab a different position, maybe keep Sadiq Bey. I think the Pistons are still a decent amount of years away from being real contenders. So yeah, I think it was a weird move, kind of not like doesn't really help them that much. I don't think. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how Wiseman does and how they can develop him there. But so you said the Pistons haven't had a great track record in developing players, especially with a guy like James Wiseman who's struggled early in his career. So it's a bit of a project, but yeah, I told Noah this too. Like they at least doesn't work out. They've got trade pieces. They can use Wiseman maybe down the road in a few years to trade for that big superstar to help them win when they're ready. But yeah, overall, I think it was a weird move and not really a needed one.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Obviously, I hope it all works out with Wiseman. In the end, I still hope he's an absolute stud for the Pistons. Um, you know, Another thing too is their GM keeps saying, we're gonna build this, we're gonna bring back the old school Pistons. But old school Pistons are so fun, but it's not the 1980s anymore. It's not the 2000s anymore. You need to be able to shoot to win in the NBA. You can't be drafting all these paint dominant defenders. But that's the best end on that. I want to move on to a little bit of Red Wings talk here.
Okay.
I've been following the Red Wings a little bit this season. I need Adyn's expertise on the Red Wings this season. Um, but yeah, definitely some frustration going on, especially with my dad, who's a huge Wings fan. Um, but how do you see their season unfolding? They're still very well in the wild card race. Um, but yeah, how do you see? Just give me a recap of this Red Wings season so far.
Um, yeah, it's been a weird one for us Wings fans this year, but I don't know. I still believe in Yzerman and the Yzer plan. I think the Wings, they got a lot of young guys, a lot of young superstars in the making, in my opinion. But it's been a weird year for sure. I think Larkin, he's on the last year of his contract. It's gonna they haven't been able to get him re-signed yet this year. And there's been a lot of talks, and we saw Bo Horvat. I don't know if you know who that is, Noah, but Bo Horvat got traded to the Islanders, and he re-signed for I think 8.5 million. And a lot of people would say Larkin is a better player than him. So I've heard just from like different guys around the league that he's asking for 8.5 to 9 for 8 years. Larkin is, and Yzerman's kind of coming back at him with like 7.5 to 8, and they're not really matching. I don't know. I would hate to see Larkin leave, but I think if he wants to be the captain of the Red Wings and be a part of the future of this team, I think he maybe takes a little bit of a hometown discount. Kind of like guys like Crosby did, and Bergeron and Marchand and all these guys that took lesser deals for the team, for the benefit of the team. But moving on from that, I think it's been a little bit disappointing too for some guys. We can start with Lucas Raymond, 33 points this year in 50 games. A bit of a step back from his year last year. Mo Sider, he's been okay. I mean, he's minus 10 this year. 30 points in 52 games is good, but not as dominant as I think a lot of people would have seen him being this year. And there's just a lot of guys like it's just been a weird year. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot you could say about it, but like signing Perron in the offseason, and people thought the Red Wings going to be like making a push for the playoffs and being in a playoff spot by this time of the year. But I don't know. We'll see by the end of the year. They're still in the playoff race a little bit. But in my opinion, I think they should be looking towards this offseason and trying to retool again, get Larkin re-signed, and make another run at it next year. But it's been a weird year.
Yeah, it has. I mean, Larkin bring up a good point about his contract. He scored 4 goals in the last 2 games. I don't know if I'm mistaken that. I thought I saw that somewhere on Twitter. Um, and at the day we're recording this, they play Edmonton tonight. So that should be a fun game to watch. To really see if they can build off that 2-game win streak. They've had some good wins. So yeah, that's a little bit about the Red Wings here. And to kind of wrap up the podcast, a lot of offseason stuff coming up for NFL, a lot of mock drafts, some more bonus, maybe some interviews coming up, but see you in the next episode.